Have you ever noticed this thing about us as human beings? We can choose a very meaningful goal, something that matters to us a lot, and in a very short time, we can sabotage what we're up to. It's just incredible, I think. Just take, for example, our families. Every one of us wants to have a nice family, a good family, a close family. And yet there are things we do all the time that take our families and prevent them from being as much support as they could possibly be. The other night I was out at dinner with a friend, and as we were sitting down in the restaurant, I looked up, and on the other side of the restaurant, there was a family, mother and a father, brother and a sister. They weren't talking to each other. That's how I know they were a brother and sister. And they were sitting down, and as soon as they sat down, they pulled out the cell phone. And they started looking at the cell phone like this. And I thought, okay, they're just checking the menu. They've got a QR code or something like that. So we continued our conversation. Dinner is moving along. About halfway through the meal, I look up. And what's happening over on the other side of the restaurant is they're still looking at the cell phone. I thought, well, that's interesting. It must be a long menu. So we finished our dinner, and when we were getting ready to leave, to tell you the truth, I just couldn't resist. I had to look. And guess what? The cell phones were still there. So I thought to myself, wow, I wonder if they missed anything. And you know, we try to build a life that we want, and we struggle, and yet sometimes we don't always make it. And as a result of that, human connections are imperfect. We struggle, we work, but they don't always work. And as a result of that, we have experienced and are going through a tremendous source of loneliness right now in the United States. As a matter of fact, a recent CNN Kaiser family poll found that 90% of Americans believe that we're experiencing a major mental health crisis. In one form or another, people are struggling. And this experience of loneliness is coming, we think, from the shrinking of social networks, the fact that we don't have the kinds of emotional resources we had at a previous time in life. You can see from the slide, this is the cover of the advisory produced by the Surgeon General in 2023 on the epidemic of loneliness, which is filled with data about what's happening and what's going on. When we don't have meaningful relationships, when we don't have close connections and ties, we end up in a state of something we call emotional homelessness. We don't have anything to hook to, and we wander from place to place, wondering, worrying, hoping, looking, but not finding the essential sustaining emotional support we need. It's especially hard as we get older and our friends die, and we lose companions that we've been with for all our life, and we're on our own. But the cohort that is most at risk is between 10 and 25 years of age. So believe it or not, some reports suggest that depression in this cohort has risen by 105%, and suicide has increased over the last 10 to 15 years by 62%. Aren't those big numbers? We know that 40% of high school students feel pervasive sadness and hopelessness. That's not once in a while, maybe once every week or once a month or something. It's pervasive every day, all the time. So we really want to be close. And it turns out that a study at Harvard University, which has been running since 1938, studying human development and looking for secrets to happiness, has found really a very good core. It's not wealth, it's not prestige, it's not even IQ. The secret to happiness is, well, there it is. Good relationships. Relationships that are solid, that support us, that enable us to find the connections that we need in order to live and be happy. We know for sure that these connections can protect the mind and the body. And it's not the quantity of connections they found, it's the quality of the connection. How deeply do people actually bond to one another? How honestly can they talk and share? Fortunately, it's never too late to build these relationships. And that's because we're really hardwired for connection. We're hardwired by our biology. There are all kinds of neural circuits the neurologists are finding that relate to our ability to connect to one another, like mirror neuron circuits that allow us to sense other people's emotions and notice their behaviors. And we know that we're most miserable when we are alone and alienated from other people. This hardwiring is there from the beginning. We're drawn to each other very young age and all the way to the end. So the question is then, if this is so important, how can we build these relationships that really matter? What can we do? There is, it turns out, an ancient practice that's 2,500 years old. Very simple, but very effective for building strong bonds and connections. And it has this amazing power to transform us and to intentionally help us to create kindness and compassion for one another. You may have heard of it, called loving kindness. Very simple exercise, and it can significantly enhance our resilience and happiness. So here's how it works. We take a very simple phrase like, may I be happy? May I be at peace? May I be healthy? Or here's one I like, may I be happy and free from suffering. And all we have to do is say that phrase over and over again. Because when we do that, we overpower the negative brain. You know, our brain is hardwired to be negative in order to help us in surviving in the environment. But if we're negative all the time, we're going to be in great trouble. And so we have to counterbalance it by building a parallel skill of hope and possibility. And loving kindness is so simple. All we have to say is, may I be happy. And the more we say it, the more brain structure we create that is focused on happiness and thinks about happiness and imagines happiness as something that can actually take place. The way you do this is so simple. You sit down or go for a walk. If you sit down, you can close your eyes and bring your attention to your breath. And as you breathe in and out, you simply repeat the phrase over and over. So you can breathe in, may I be happy, and breathe out, and free from suffering. You could try it again. Breathing in, may I be happy, and free from suffering. Do it a third time. May I be happy. Hold your breath just a second, and exhale more slowly, and free from suffering. Oh, I feel more calm already. We can direct loving kindness to ourselves. We can direct loving kindness to other people. In fact, we do start with ourselves because you can't connect to others unless you connect to yourself first. So we show loving kindness to ourselves, but then we can offer it to a friend or someone that we love, someone we're close to. And then we can offer it for a neutral person, someone we know, but they may not be all that important to us, but we just want to be able to expand our capacity to extend this loving kindness to another person. But the next one is tough. The next person we can extend loving kindness to is the difficult people in our lives. Fortunately, we don't have very many of them, so people don't get much practice with this. But you can start not with your arch enemy. I recommend somebody who just kind of annoys you all the time. And you realize how troubled they are as a person, see? And you think you've got to give them some loving kindness because maybe it'll help them after all. And as you can imagine, the more we do this, what happens is those dark negative feelings, those sense of anger and resentment can be melted. Gradually. It won't happen all at once, but if we persevere, we keep going and we keep going. So does all this stuff work? Well, science has become very interesting. Folks want to study this, and we've done some studies already, and one of the first big effects of loving kindness meditation is positive emotion. It creates a feeling of positivity that lives inside of us and gets deeper and deeper the more we practice it. And the more we feel positive emotion, the more we're inclined to be positive. So it has a kind of effect upon us of building on itself. The daily experience of positive emotion just compounds over time, and it creates stronger social connections, because as we're wishing loving kindness to those we love and care about, and even those we don't like so much, it makes us closer. It pulls us into their lives. And it reduces the self-critical, negative, judgmental talk that fills up our minds so much of the time. It can actually push that out of the way. And if you think about it, since nature doesn't like a vacuum, if you don't have positive thoughts, something else is going to be there. So this is a way to push back on the negative thoughts. Because it increases empathy, because it increases connection, in youth it has shown to increase the desire to help other people and reach out, and to have increased pro-social motivation. So the chance of young people helping with a cause increases when they actually practice loving kindness meditation. It also increases opportunities for them to connect. Well, why does this work so well? It works really well because we're creating warmth and tenderness for others. And when we create that warmth and tenderness and the positive emotion, we begin connecting, even if we don't realize it's happening. Because sometimes when we say these phrases, we won't feel a thing, and other days we might notice something. Like my friend Mia, whom I want to tell you about. Oh gosh, she spent most of her earlier years on the edge of her bed, scrolling through images like this, one after another. And, she was kind of a quiet person, sort of withdrawn anyway. Her parents had their work, and she knew they were busy, and, her friends were preoccupied, but the one thing that she couldn't overcome was this deep feeling of emptiness. It just was there, and it wouldn't go away. So, she eventually came to think that she was invisible, that she didn't exist. But one day when she was scrolling on her cell phone, she came across something called loving kindness, and she thought that looked interesting, so she hit on it. And lo and behold, it appeared to promise something she really wanted: deep connection. She thought, I want some of that. So she read how to do it, and the next day when she came home from school, she put her things aside, and she sat down and closed her eyes and brought her attention to her breath, and she just started to practice, may I be happy. May I be at peace. And nothing happened. Her mind got filled with negative thoughts. All she could feel was that horrible sense of inner emptiness. But sooner and later, she started to feel closer and closer, and suddenly a change took place. And when the change took place and she started sharing it with others, the warmth came in, and she learned the more warmth that she created, the more warmth she received. She learned how to build new relationships with friends. And she did it with such this simple way of loving kindness. May I be happy. May I be at peace. So I want to say this to you. Here's a simple truth. We can end emotional homelessness. It doesn't have to exist. We can end loneliness and isolation. We can end anger and hatred and resentment. It's not impossible. Thank you.